and that's sad. We need to start documenting some of these things because it will guide the next generation.
That's right.
Going forward. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of that critique. How do we amalgamate all the, the experiences of some of our legends and put it in one place? A memoir or two would
As a matter of fact, the individuals are to be blamed. I mean, our own legendary Rollins died without a memoir. All the stories, the things we have heard about Rollins, true or false, is gone.
That's right.
And we only hear hearsay. You see snippets of information he will put out occasionally, but there's nothing.
The legends themselves have to speak.
Yeah, they have to speak, and they should be allowed to be managed. That's where the problem is. If you have a management team around you, then some of these things come up because it's been documented. Even when you didn't write and you left, because it's been documented, we can put it together even post-partum. And so that's one of the things we need to do. Obama finished presidency and he wrote a memoir.
That's right.
All of them, all their former president did. We never do. Even James Brown, is it James Brown? LeBron James and all those guys.
That's right.
Have written stuff, that
some might say, oh, they are so young, or maybe too young, because Daddy Lumba died at the age of 60. Some might say, well, okay, he's getting on, but he's still young. They're waiting.
But what he's saying is supposed to be the way forward. Because you should have started documenting his career. The memoir only speaks a volume of who you are, the struggles. So you shouldn't wait because time is not in our hands. It's got control.
That's right.
You cannot say that I'm waiting till I get to a certain age before I start writing or something.
And there can always be part 1, part 2, part 3.
Exactly.
Anyway.
That's true.
Rollins' case was something that even myself, it baffles me till now. With the caliber of leader he was, we would have expected that he would tell his own story. When he died, we should have read an autobiography.
That's right.
Written by he himself. Did they think he was going to live in perpetuity? No.
Well, on that note, some 3 minutes.
The only Ghanaian that we have who is a good writer, a prolific writer, is Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah is the only Ghanaian who writes and writes and writes. Up to now, we have not finished reading his books. That is the caliber of leader we need to build. That's somebody who is full of brain, ideas.
We need to latch on to that culture.
It's very important.
Even Professor Mills, the legendary Professor Mills, also never wrote a memoir of himself, like my senior is saying. He never wrote. Kufuor is still there. He hasn't written anything.
We sound the alarm. Our legends, we know you are listening. Let's start.
Kufuor hasn't written anything.
Documenting our lives so that when we leave, it comes from what we say, the horse's own mouth. All right, let's get into the meat of the matter, our subject matter for the morning. And of course, Bawku back in the spotlight. There is a press statement from the presidency dated Sunday, July 27th, 2025. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can also follow along. The title is Bawku Chieftaincy Conflict. Now, the government of Ghana is stepping up its approach from peacekeeping to peace enforcement in Bawku and other affected areas due to the recent escalation of violence, which could derail the peace building process. The Ghana Armed Forces have been deployed to maintain law and order as we intensify curfews to ensure public safety. We assure the public that the Ghana Armed Forces will take all necessary measures to protect lives and property. Government commends His Majesty Otumfuo Osei II for mediating the conflict and appreciates all stakeholders who are supporting the peace process. The Otumfuo mediation, with the genuine help of Nairi and Zugrana, had almost brought finality to the conflict until the very recent killings, which have necessitated drastic actions to protect all the interests of the greater good. Government urges all parties to refrain from violence and support the peace process. Residents are advised to fully cooperate with the Ghana Armed Forces to ensure peace. While regretting the inconvenience this peace enforcement intervention may cause to peace-loving people within the affected areas, the government of Ghana remains committed to restoring peace and stability in Bawku and other affected areas, and is taking every necessary measure to ensure the safety and security of all residents, including students, because we know that there was an incident involving 2 students. Very harrowing indeed at the Nalerigu SHS. Let me tell you a little bit about what's happening or what happened on that front and what are the measures that have been taken following that. So currently the safety situation at Nalerigu Senior High School is extremely tenuous following a deadly attack on July 26, 2025, when 2 students were fatally shot by unidentified assailants on campus. In direct response, several urgent safety measures have been implemented and discussed at both the school and governmental level. So there's been an immediate evacuation. The government of Ghana has initiated an urgent evacuation of students from Nalerigu SHS and surrounding conflict-prone areas in an effort to safeguard lives following the attack and ongoing regional insecurity. You also heard from that press statement that there's been a curfew imposition, probably one of the more stringent ones we've heard of recently. Authorities have imposed a strict 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew in Nalerigu as part of a safety strategy, or as part of broader strategy to restore security and prevent further incidents on or near school premises. Also, increased security presence. There's heightened police and security presence in the area, with ongoing investigations launched by the Ghana Police Service. Let's come back in studio and Wanda, let me come to you first. I note from that statement that the approach is now going from peacekeeping to peace enforcement. We know that there's a curfew in place, increased security presence, also a ban, we're told, on carrying of arms and ammunition. This is where we are now. We've gone from peacekeeping to peace enforcement. That sounds like some very stringent measures are going to be taken to ensure the peace.
Yeah, let me just try and take us through a little bit of history on this Bawku conflict. And it's a harrowing experience because we've lost hundreds of lives under circumstances, so be it, weird. Weird because what's the fight about? Weird because is it all about chieftaincy? Weird because is it only about territorial boundaries? Weird because is it only about supremacy of which tribe is superior? Weird because sometimes there are even alleged political undertones. And for us, that is a worrying trend. Life in Bawku has virtually grinded to a halt. You go out during the day, by 4 p.m. you must return. Wherever you are, you must sleep wherever you are. So market women, all the trade, the food stuff we get from Bawku down south is virtually a problem. People are shot, just because they are suspected to be on this side or on the other side. And I think that is a very worrying concern. These conflicts date back to 1957. When it was largely between the Kusasis and the Mamprosis. The Mamprosis they are on the road to Bolga, so Waliwale area there.
Right.
But the side of Waliwale, when their boundaries extend, I don't know how to describe it, but you have to go through the Waliwale township first, but before you get to Bolga.
I'm sure we can put a map up at some point so we can demonstrate the area. Right.
So sometimes there's what you call waylaying, like people wait on the way and get you, they beat you and those stuff. So we've had all this, but it came to the fore largely in 2003. And in 2000, tensions had escalated. Though the Supreme Court had ruled at the time that the rightful chieftaincy leadership over that issue, it still did not stop the issue. The conflict periodically flared up and often triggered by rival enskinment. In their place, they don't do chieftaincy, they do enskinment. Rival enskinment or attempts to assert rival claims to the title of the Bawku Naba. So immediately you get to understand there's a chieftaincy undertone. And when there are chieftaincy undertones, the difficulty you have is where do you lean as a government? And won't you be seen as favoring one gate against the other? want to be seen as favoring one party against the other. Because when it happens like that, you see that the two gates split themselves, one in the other party and the other on the other side, claiming to have supremacy because we are in government and so we should have our way and all that stuff. And it's worrying for all of us as a country. In 2021, government decided to put in some stringent curfew. There were bans on movement of vehicles, cars, and all that. We would have thought that the mediation effort by Otumfuo Asantehene would have resolved the crisis. Many people allege that the mediation team led by Otumfuo should have had a local, paramount chief in that,
sort of the entourage.
Yeah, part of the peacekeeping process.
Right.
So, I know that when the NDC took over, they included this time around, if I'm not, I don't want to mention names, they included one of the prominent chiefs in the area, because sometimes, yes, it's good that the Otumfuo, committee or program was helping, but sometimes you need an insider who gives you the dynamics of the area, the lifestyle of the area, their upbringing, and what they want and what they don't want. Cultural sensitivity, call it.
Okay.
So that dynamics has been brought to bear on the issue. But we still see a lot of, violence. As we speak, the MP of the area cannot easily go to that area. If he has to go with escort. And how bad can it get? Because that's where you have all the big yam farms, you have all the maize farms, you have all the big cereal, granite. Granite is not a cereal. It's a nut. That's where you find the big farms. I've traveled on that road before, and the difficulty is that because it's just one major road passing through the town, when you are waylaid, like ambushed, that's the word. You are ambushed. There's no other way.
You can't go right. You can't go left.
Because you have been blocked, and they are going to finish you. And it's not as if it's a very major, big road that you can maneuver quickly and even if you're going to turn. Is that the only way we can live in our own country? So I think the government has taken a step that we have been too lenient. We try to listen to all of you. We give you an opportunity to give peace a chance. And it doesn't seem to work.
And that's been a big critique, this idea that governments past and present have decided that this issue is too sensitive. Even when we speak about it on air, there is some level of, I don't know whether to call it secrecy or kind of kids' gloves that we treat the issue with, because we're told, don't say this, don't say that, lest you inflame, the passions and inflame the tempers. Is that what has also aided and abetted this continuous violence that we see? This idea that, this is something that you have to be so delicate, so careful, so tactful. Yes.
Yeah. No. I mean, in peace building, this is part of the processes of peace building. The very first thing you do in a conflict-prone area is to understand the dynamics of the conflict. If they are relatives, one of the things you want to do is to resolve it. Even we take cases to court and you discover that the person who stole is the junior brother of the one who is alleging to have been stolen. And if the court pass judgment, it will cause further disintegration of the family. So some of those cases, the judge in his wisdom can say, well, take this to alternative dispute resolution.
Go and do some mediation before you come back.
If you are sure, then come back. Just like marital issues, if we take a divorce case to court, one of the things all judges want to do is to see if the issue can be resolved. Because a judgment would definitely bring acrimony. And so you don't want to treat it as in the strict sense of a crime or treat it in the strict sense of a conflict, as it were. So government will always want to explore other options. And it is working in several places. After all, for instance, the conflict in Yendi and all those ones have been calmed, a little by the intervention of Otumfuo. And so there have been conflict in many areas. There have been conflict in the Volta region, in Central, in many other places that this approach worked. In this particular instance, government feels they have exhausted all there is. And what triggered this particular one is just that in February 2023, there was an enskinment of one Sedu Abagri, who is Bawku by the Mampusis overlord. And again, this is where I told you about the political undertones. You know, surprisingly and somehow, you know, and unfortunately, let me say this, but this is not because I'm against any tribe. The vice president of the republic at the time comes from Wali. The Waliwalis are the Mampusis. There was this perception that, because we are now in power, we should have our way. So I am told, from the reports we got, that somebody from that area was enskined as the Naba, the Bawku Naba, which the other people resisted. And in the resistance, there were gunshots, there were people who were killed and all that. That's what triggered this current one. And after a period of relative calm, violence surged again in 2024, just very close to the elections in October. Seydou Abagui returned to Bawku on October 24th. And within days, almost about 16 people died or were killed. I think that these are the undertones that we have had. The Chief Justice at the time ordered the closure of 7 courts, if you remember.
That's right.
Yeah, in the midst of the crisis and all that. Schools were closed, shut down at the time. Minister for Chieftaincy at the time, Stephen Samuel Watson at the time also repeatedly, urged the factions to calm down and all that. So government has been exploring all that, dynamics. What is interesting today is that the government has taken a decision that we are no longer going to ask you to go and do peace or make peace. We will enforce the peace. It is the responsibility of government, the Ghana Police Service, and the military to protect our sovereignty. 1, protect lives and property. 2, to keep peace and order. And it's within their ambit to do that with or without your consent. And so government has taken that firm decision. Hey, you go against the law, we'll punish you. We don't care whose house is God. You remember the recent killing of the students?
Some 2 students.
Yeah,
Nalerigu SHS.
Again, that's what has also triggered this particular one. That one was a stray bullet, we're told. That is a stray bullet that killed one, and later the other one was rushed to the hospital and died also. But one of them belongs to one of the factions in the north. So they felt that it is the other faction, I'm not going to put names to the faction, it's the other faction that killed the guy. But we are all told that it is a stray bullet. And it didn't even happen within the precincts of the Bawku, traditional area. It happened somewhere in the northern part of Volta. Just because the guy is one of the,
So it didn't happen on the school campus or outside the school campus? No, it happened
on the school campus.
Right.
But the school is not within the jurisdiction of where the case is happening now. Just that one of their son died in a strange land, and there's a suspicion that he was killed by our, opponents on the other side. Then this whole thing came up again very strongly, and people die like chicken. I know a couple of guys who, those days during campaign, would support us in terms of movement and all that, but today they are late on very strange circumstances, and I don't think that's the way to go. In February 2025, the Bupewa, that's Abdullah Ejinapo, the vice president of the National House of Chiefs, he is the vice president, issued a call for ceasefire at the time, urging factions to lay down arms. All that did not give us any dividends. The president himself went there personally to just resolve this issue. It doesn't look as though they are willing to cohabit. So what do? You go in with the government machinery and support of the law to enforce law and order.
So that's what you mean by we're peacekeeping, but now we're peace enforcing. We've gone from
we've gone from managing to now enforcing and ensuring that you do it.
Now, Wanda, speaking about the political undertones, sometime last year, there's a story here, 5th August 2024, flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has opined that there is a connection between the crisis in Bawku and the New Patriotic Party. Speaking during his tour of the Upper East region, the president, at that time he was called former, but now president, said that this is why the crisis in Bawku flares up when the NPP is in power, but things become peaceful when the NDC returns to power. I'm sure you have tested the pulse. This statement has now reared its head. At the time that he was speaking, was that not...
What date was that?
So this story is from 5th August 2024. This is last year.
5th August 2024. That's
This is last year, yes, during a tour of the Upper East region.
Yeah.
Does that not contribute to the political flames? Does that not amount to fanning the political flames?
So, no, I don't think the president spoke in that regard. First and foremost, before now, the whole northern region was just one. So the president himself has ties in that northern region. The Gonjas, the Dagombas, and then the Fafres on the other side, and then the Walas also on the other side. Those are the four major ones. Until recently that we decided to do the demarcation, and you now have Savannah, you have Upper East, Upper West, then you have the Northeast and all that. So it is one large group of people, even though divided by traditional zones, you want to call it. So the president was speaking on the backdrop of the 2023 enskinment of the one Seydou Abagri guy, who is known to be a Mampusi, and also linked to the fact that we had a vice president who comes from that area.
Shall I read this statement? Shall I read it again? It says, anytime NDC is in government, Bawku is at peace. Unfortunately, as soon as NDC leaves government, the Bawku crisis flares up again. Let nobody say it's a fight between ethnic groups, John Dramani Mahama said.
And again, I'm trying to explain to you the background of that information. I'm saying that the undercurrent we have always had is that when, say, MPP is in power, those who are somewhat aligned, even though it is not the calculated attempt by the MPP to say that I'm going to back only this group of people, we see frontliners in that regard who are supporting this group of people. When I say support, I mean, I'm not saying open support, but they seem to align with the MPP. Of course, we can't deny the fact that our ex-president comes from Wale Wale, which is a Mampusi.
Ex-vice president.
The vice president comes from Wale Wale, which is the Mampusi zone. So there is this consciousness from the people that, oh, we are in power. We can do anything and get away with it. And even when they grant interview, you hear it in their interviews, you hear it on the ground. The reports that have come in have indicated that there are political undertones. Of course, the NDC was in power at the time that the president made that comment. The MPP was in power, and the conflict had reached a crescendo.
And now the NDC is in power. Look at what we have.
No, the conflict did not end. You know, it has always been there till now.
Wonder, did the president misspeak? Did the president misspeak?
I don't think. At the time, he was not president. He was a candidate.
Or did the flag bearer of your party misspeak at that time?
No, I don't think so. This is open knowledge. I have also stated to you here right now that there is political undertones. We should not deceive ourselves that there are no political undertones. I'm saying that some group of people become emboldened because their party, so-called, is in power. This is something that a lot of reports have come out, all the reports that have been done in that place. You will hear that there are political undertones to these issues. Look, sometime in the past, even to pick a minister for Northern region or from Upper East was difficult because you don't know which of the sides you pick a minister from. To the extent that under President Mills or President John Dramani Mahama, we have had to shuffle ministers around, regional ministers around. I remember Nia Fotiagbo, for instance, was sent to the Volta region. It was some of these things, this undercurrent. Even appointment, who do you appoint and who don't you appoint? Now, we also had a defense minister who was also from that side. So not only the vice president, the defense minister at the time was that side also. So it is not just a suspicion as it were. Reports, credible reports have come out to say that, look, some of these people are emboldened because they feel their party is in power and they have this sense of entitlement to do what they are doing. Calm them now, or punish them now, or get them behind bars now, or remove them from the area now. What is the essence of installing a chief and you have left the area, peace has returned? Then just because you are so powerful, you think that when you come, nothing will happen. You showed up. So is it showing up in that 2023 February that escalated this whole thing? Because the people were after him. And if I'm after you, I may have to, God forbid, clear people around you to get you. So that's how the whole crisis begins. I don't think the president, the flag bearer at the time misspoke.
Do you think, given the power of hindsight, he would have maybe restructured He says anytime because anytime NDC is in government, Bawku is at peace.
Yes.
Is Bawku at peace? Bawku's not at peace.
But that's good record. We just came to government. And I'm saying that is why, again, the president is taking this decision. This decision the president is taking today, why was he not taking in the past under the previous government? I don't want us to even politicize it. It will be disturbing the peace of Ghanaians to politicize this on this show. And God forbid if I stay here to politicize it. But again, we need to be abreast with the truth. And the truth is that all the credible reports that have come in, all the peacekeeping reports that have come in, the military, the police, the inter-agency peacekeeping forces that have come in, even when we got external support from other, bodies outside, almost all of them have said that there is some level of political influence or political capital in this. Now, if you want to know further, check out the seats that the NDC won in that region and the ones the MPP won. You will see that it's sharply divided.
All right, Wanda, thank you.
And we split it. It was 6 seats in that place, right? And it was 3-3. The NDC got 3, they got 3. So that, again, should give you a very clear evidence that there's a political capital in this whole business.
Thank you for that,
I'm happy that the president wants to clamp down on it now.
I'll certainly come back to you, Richard. Let me bring you into the conversation. And sometimes I don't even know how to navigate it because you say the wrong thing. It's almost as if you stepped on a landmine. But at the core of this issue is the human interest angle. There are everyday people, everyday Ghanaians living in the area who simply want to go to work, want to go to school, want to go about their daily business. Governments past and present, do you say that they have been decisive in clamping down on the violence, regardless of who is at fault? At the end of the day, the people want development. They want to enjoy their lives. Simply put, what is the way forward?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you and to say good morning to my co-panelists this morning. You say, who is an enemy of the state? Enemy of the state is within and external. Anybody whose actions and inactions will compromise the safety and security of the country is an enemy of the state.
Regardless of whatever background.
Whatever is happening in Bawku, the Mamprusis and the Kusasis, they are positioning themselves to become enemies of the state.
So you say anybody that is disturbing the peace. So let's even just remove whatever tribe it is. Let's even exit that from the conversation. Whoever is seeking to destabilize the peace of the country is an enemy of the state.
Damage the reputation of the country on international platform is an enemy of the state. You see, this Bawku conflict predates Ghana's independence. If you read it further, you understand that even Lord Listowel had to even establish a committee to look into these Bawku issues between the Mamprusis and the Kusasis. Let us speak truth to power. Okay? Don't let anybody hold us back from speaking truth to power.
But we've got to be tactful, haven't we, Richard, to ensure that we are
not fueling it. We are not fueling it. But like I said, we need to be candid. That is the only way civilized jurisdictions they develop. But when we are beating about the bush and giving people slaps on the wrist and patting people on the back and not speaking truth to power, we are fueling the whole situation. We are festering it further. And it's because people have a lot of hubris and over-bloated egos. That is why nobody is willing to compromise on the issue. Why am I saying so? We all have come to understand that the Kusasis are saying that they predate way back. They dominate the area. They have about 6 administrative institutions there or jurisdictions there. All these people, they are Kusasi. They speak Kusasi language. They understand everything. How do we live in Greater Accra? And we say because, excuse me to say, that Shanties have come to Accra. They are here in their sufficient numbers in terms of millions or 2 millions.
Richard, in this instance, let's beat around the bush. I say this because, I say this because of how delicate and sensitive the issue is. So even for the benefit of the uninitiated, and I appreciate this history, I would want us to maybe completely stay clear.
Okay, if that is how you want us to go about it,
so that
and the press
it doesn't
statement
appear that sides are being taken at all. I like how you started off that whoever disturbs the peace of the country should be viewed within that lens.
So if that is the approach, for which reason we want to handle this issue with a lot of care or caution to ensure that we don't bring in Mamprusi or Kusasi.
Yes, in fact, we can progress without even mentioning any factions.
But how do we arrive at a solution without speaking to the issue at hand? But I'll leave it like that.
Thank you.
Like I said, my concern is when we allow a situation to degenerate to the point that a child in secondary school is how many years old? Probably about 17, 18 years old.
That's right.
Thugs can go into the school, scale the wall, go into the dormitory, fetch the guy out and shoot him. What are we trying to insinuate? What are we insinuating? We are festering, we are preparing the grounds, we are rather fueling and greasing the ground for this thuggery to continue. Like I said, let me just narrow my conversation to the press release by the presidency.
Sure.
That they are going to enforce peace. They say when persuasion fails, force must be applied. Now, like I said, because they are positioning themselves over there to become enemies of the state internal, because they are causing us pain. And every day we have to wake up, people are dying because of people's actions and inactions. So I would have even expected that instead of, let's say, just deploying the military there, I would plead the government to actually go in and establish a garrison in Bawku.
To establish a
complete military garrison in Bawku. They should be there. They should be permanently staying there.
In practical terms, what would that sort of look like for the residents that live there? What would they...
Don't we have a garrison in Volta region? We have a garrison in Ho. Don't we have there?
Indeed. We
have. So if any issue, emergency, they deploy them into action. So if a group of people, they are trying to compromise on the safety and international reputation of the country by constantly attacking each other, going after market women, going after children, killing chiefs, now broad daylight, they are gunning down people on motorbike. Do we want to continue on this path, or we want to curtail it? If we want to curtail it, then we should have a permanent military resident in Bawku. Then we say that is also like how we have 4BN in Alapremdum, Takrade, or 2BN. We should have a garrison there, so that when a garrison in there, they can quickly, you see, when the people know that the security is always on us, every step we take, they are monitoring us 24 hours. I am betting my last penny that they will change their mindset. It's all about mindset change, attitudinal change. They believe that we are left the hook, we act, and then the police step in. Now, up to now, has the police affected any arrest? Zero, because the thing happens, and the police is not picking intelligence before the thing happens. That's why in some jurisdictions, the police will pick intelligence and abort whatever is supposed to happen.
And you say if there's a permanent presence, they can be proactive rather than being reactive.
Proactive, and it will also instill fear in the people. Because let me tell you, every human society, if they get the opportunity, they will misbehave. They will take the law into their own hands. The only way to control a black man, especially a black man, is to put him under pressure to behave.
Richard, let me pause you very, very quickly. I do have on the line Kofi Asare, Executive Director, African Education Watch. And then I'll come back to you, and then we can talk about this issue of arms and ammunition. It's a big issue also in Bawku. And then we'll talk about that. Let me speak with Kofi, and then we'll come back in studio. Kofi, hello, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, I'm doing well, but I'm sad because we are losing our students in our schools through needless conflict, and we just lost a musical icon. But I'm alive, and I'm grateful to God.
Very harrowing accounts of what transpired a few days ago at the Nalerigu Senior High School. I mean, from your monitoring, how widespread are safety and security concerns in Ghanaian secondary schools? Let's broaden it and then we narrow it down to these conflict-prone areas.
Well, let me begin by condemning, in all certain terms, the violence, the abductions, the killing of innocent students in Nalerigu and Bawku and other places where violence, has taken place. In the past 6 months, we've seen in Kwanta, we've seen Bawku, we've seen Nalerigu, senior high schools losing students due to needless violence, and we will continue to condemn these actions in certain terms, and call for calm and order, because education as a right can never be enjoyed in an atmosphere of violence. And when such violence conduct continues, it is the children of the people in the conflict areas who are denied an opportunity of building their human capital to be competitive in the next generation. So we call on all the feuding parties to lay down their arms and slow the ceasefire. But most importantly, we call on law enforcement to arrest and prosecute. We've not heard, I don't know, but I have not heard of any published arrest and prosecutions in the Kwanta, in Bawku, and in Nalerigu. I stand to be corrected. But many a times when we see, strong action against such perpetrators, when we see them being apprehended and prosecuted and be convicted, it sends some signals to the conflict preneurs that there are consequences, or there shall be consequences for their actions. And so I want to see more of that in terms of criminalizing, in terms of prosecuting the criminals behind these violent clashes.
Certainly. Now, the government of Ghana has initiated an urgent evacuation of students from Nalerigu SHS and surrounding conflict-prone areas in an effort to safeguard, lives following this attack. A step in the right direction. And, for how long should this continue? What steps should also be taken to ensure that young ones don't miss out on too much of their education?
Yeah, that's in line with the protocols for education emergency. It's a conflict threatening life, evacuate. So evacuation was done in real time, and that's a good response. We are moving towards Wasi. The particulars is starting days from now, and that's a challenge. The possibility of prolonged conflict or violence, attacks, disrupting the Wasi activities in these affected schools. So I know why I first look at hoping that within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 days, calm is restored so that Wasi can take place in the centers within the catchment area of the violence or the conflict. But should there be no positive sign or signal of life resuming to normalcy, it's likely that the second option would be to relocate the students so that they can ride the Wasi in the nearest center outside the conflict zone. And so these are the options available. But I'm happy that evacuation has been done. I would have been happier if intelligence would have led to fomenting this heinous crime. But at least evacuation has been done timely, and so the students, I believe, should be safe outside the conflict zone by now.
Now, what about the psyche of the students who will have to contend with the death of 2 colleagues, 2 friends, but also have to, realign their minds to write exams? What sort of psychological help should be given to the students to ensure that this, although quite harrowing, does not affect them moving forward?
Again, this is also within the education emergency protocols, where the situation that occasioned the closure of the school, has a potential of impacting negatively the mental health, the psyche, the emotion of students. It is important to provide socio emotional support to the students. In this case, we're witnessing the killing of their fellow students. They will be in trauma, not only in writing examinations, but should they even have to return to school, there's the scar, the scar of having one of your own killed by wicked men will always put some fear in you as you return to school. And so authorities at the education service will have a lot of work to do in terms of providing the necessary psychosocial support to facilitate their re-entry when calm is restored. Not just their re-entry, but then they are starting to also stay on campus after school has been reopened. It's very, very important, and not only for the students, but also for the teachers and the other staff of the school who are not teachers. Very, 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 very important. We are worried that WASI is very close.
That's right.
And other students have the peace of mind and the luxury of mind to learn. And so when you have schools that are in the private part of the country, low category schools. If I say low category, I'm talking about schools that are relatively deprived. Going through this trauma, then it gives you more or less there's a double. You are receiving double slaps. It worries us. It worries us, and so we'll continue to call on the authorities not to just give assurances, but to put in place practical, pragmatic measures, to prevent such occurrence.
Right.
And then also take action on the culprits.
Now, in what ways can national education stakeholders be held accountable for lapses in safety?
You see, we normally want to contextualize this conflict within the broader scheme of violence in our senior high schools. Our senior high schools, beyond this, 3 incidents or 2 incidents of prolonged ethnic violence or whatever, community violence in the Bawku area, which has spilled over to Nalerigu. You see, if you observe, in the past couple of years, we've seen an escalation in gun violence and knife violence in our senior high schools. The dimension of violence in our schools has escalated to easy heights and also assumed sophisticated dimensions. You understand?
Indeed.
And that is why we called for police presence in all senior high schools. Between July last year and July this year, every month there is one reported case of at least either gun violence or knife violence.
That is staggering indeed. Kofi, repeat that for us, please.
Between July last year and July this year, in the past 12 months, every month at least there is one reported case of gun violence or knife violence. And between then, and in the past 12 months, out of these at least 12 incidences, we've recorded deaths in excess of 22. With the exception of Laura, which was outside the school, and that was actually not a gun violence, where 5 people died. All the remaining dead ones, or those who were maimed, were as a result of radicalized violence.
This is truly shocking, Kofi. I mean, we hear about these incidents, but when you amalgamate it and you break it down, we are in a crisis.
You see, let me just take you back. I'm saying that in the past 12 months, we've had at least 12 incidences of gun or knife violence in our senior high schools, leading to either the death or, injury, serious injury to over 20 students. In our friend in Suta, in August 2024, there was a clash there. People were injured. If you go to Ghana Senior High School, Christian Methodist, Accra Academy, You go to Weta in Pantasina. The list is endless, and people are dying. Adventist Senior High School, a student was shot in the eye. Another senior high school, a teacher was stabbed in the eye. So it's either the student, a teacher, or a community member being killed or being seriously injured, life-threatening abuse, resulting from gun or knife attacks. The last time our headmasters conducted a raid in our schools, you saw the report. They found even pinch bars in students' lockers. Pinch bars.
Pinch bars. Kofi, what is that?
Pinch bars. A pinch bar is that huge hammer-like object that carpenters use to remove nails. Big nails.
How are the students getting their hands on pinch bars, taking them to school?
Yeah. So people are having pistols. They are having pinch bars. Everybody, So the radicalization in our senior high schools is not one that can be managed by the security, or sometimes we call them watchmen. It is not one for a watchman or a regular unarmed security. Or it is one that requires the presence of a police post. If you go to many countries where crime is high, there's always a police officer in the school.
That's right.
If you go to America, at the high schools, you will see that. You go to South Africa.
In fact, the students are getting searched daily before they, enter the classrooms and so on and so forth. Their bags, their pockets, everything.
It's because of the situation. But these are not even normally boarding schools. These are day schools.
That's right.
But in our case, we have even boarding schools. You make the matter even worse. But the students are actually living there. So you need security that will have adequate intelligence on campus, to prevent many of these things from happening, and then also give the assurance of safety from external aggressors. I am saying that we need a police post in every senior high school. Our senior high schools average 3,000 per community. 3,000 people living in one community. That's a large number that we don't need to advance any strong debate to convince anyone that we need police protection. And so I think that the GE, the Ministry of Education, and the Ghana Police Service will need to have a serious conversation around providing police presence in our senior high schools. At least, if in the immediate term, this can be done for schools that are, hotspots, in the entire area. We know the conflict map in Ghana. So schools that are within the conflict map of Ghana, let's provide that. And then let's have a plan to roll it out to all senior secondary schools. But having said that, I'm saying that the feuding factions in this conflict will have to come up to terms to the fact that the only people who are suffering from their actions are their own people, their own children, the next generation. And so they should stop the fight. They should give peace a chance. And we call on law enforcement agencies to expedite action on arrests and prosecutions and convictions.
Absolutely, Kofi. We're grateful for your time this morning, and you've given us some very eye-opening stats. I'm sure in due course we'll be able to have a conversation about this. Let me come back in studio. And Richard, you were making your point, and any reactions, though, to what Kofi Asare from African Education Watch said, that our young ones are taking pinch bars even to school. The situation is looking very, very dicey indeed. And if you escalate it to the conflict-prone areas, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. You see, the issue is about self-defense. Now, most of the children in some of these secondary schools, they don't know what is going to befall them in the next minute. So perhaps some are trying to be defensive-minded and trying to take all these kinds of arms to campus to make sure they protect themselves. And like I said, because it's a generational crisis, some of these young ones have been born into the crisis. So they know that once I stand at this side of the divide, the chances are that I am not safe. So they are all trying to at least protect themselves against any unforeseen thing. But then again, like I'm saying, we shouldn't allow this to degenerate into the situation where our secondary schools are being roped into this. The children are innocent. they perhaps have been born into the crisis. But it is incumbent upon their parents to advise and educate them. That is why I'm saying that if at that side of the divide, they are not willing to compromise. We have had these issues before. In Volta region, we had the Peki people and the Alavanyo people and the Chito people went into serious wars. Nkonya and Alavanyo, they went into wars. They fought. Okay, but until one side was willing to compromise, then we got peace, even though there's no pockets of it.
Is compromise the name of the game? That's all it is going to take at this point.
Yeah, because one side must be willing to compromise. Because if one side is not willing to compromise, how would there ever be peace? For let's say, like how my senior brother is saying that somebody has been enskined. The person was perhaps smuggled into the community, and it was the reason for which this thing triggered. If that side could just compromise and say, you know what, if we are the reason for which we cannot have peace in Bawku, we are withdrawing. We are allowing you to go and proceed and have your chieftaincy. That is the only way. But if none is willing to compromise, my dear Helen, we would be running in circles, and this issue will never stop today, will never stop tomorrow. That is why I am classifying it as people who are becoming an enemy of the state. That is why I sincerely support the president's decision to declare a military debate. Is this the first time we are declaring military to Bawku? No. Haven't we declared them there over and over and over? Has the situation been stabilized? Has the situation been cured? We are talking about curing the situation permanently.
That's right.
Not that we go 1 year, 2 years, there's a relative stability, and then within another 6 months, then it erupts and becomes more chaotic. In the past, we were not hearing students being adopted and killed from their dormitories. But in this instance, we are hearing to the point that some people can go and gun down a chief in another jurisdiction. Okay, that means that this thing has escalated from Bawku, has now traveled to what? Ashanti region. I'm hearing that the military has deployed a permanent armed staff at the Menshia Palace.
Right.
Because the assumption is that they don't know what might happen there, because Otunfo, our revered Otunfo, is the one was mediating. Isn't that the case?
Indeed.
And the guns that the people are using, I hear the army say that some of the automatic weapons that are being used by the people of Bawku, where are the guns coming from? You see, in every war situation, there are people who benefit from it. So I will not be surprised. There are some people who are benefiting from this Bawku crisis, and they want the status quo to remain the same.
So there are people who you say would be delighted if we don't see an end to this conflict.
That is the problem. That is it. That is, if they wanted to solve it, you could have solved it. But if arms, guns, or automatic weapons, sophisticated weapons, are getting into the arms of people in Bawku, and we are not talking about the entire northeast region. We are talking about Bawku and its enclave. Isn't that the case?
Indeed.
So if Bawku and its enclave is the problem, we should control it. And the only way we can control it is about enforcing peace there. Because you see, when America went into the Civil War, what happened? Another faction was trying to break away from the Union. And Abraham Lincoln said, no, we will not allow you to do that. He went and fought them and bring them back to join the Union. Are you getting the case? So in this case, if the people of Bawku want to be fighting there and continually fighting, why should the state, which has all the powers vested in you, allow you to be doing that? That's why I'm saying that instead of just deploring and you go stabilize the situation and come back, there should be like a deliberate attempt that will have a permanent garrison there. The Edu Watch boss was talking about police. Do you know in Ghana we don't even fear the police? The thugs don't fear the police. The thugs that are on our street, they don't fear the police.
Because now we know that they also have arms in equal measure. So the thugs are armed, so they are not scared of the police. They are not scared of the police.
The only group of people that we have a little bit of fear and respect for them is the military. That is why we are of the view that not for them to go and cause chaos.
Absolutely.
But if they are permanently positioned there, they can help build bridges, build markets, build schools, like how we are trying to deploy the 48th Engineering Department of the Army should be there. And most of the Bawku youth, both sides of the divide, Mamprusis and Kusasis and whoever they are, they should be given opportunity to even join the military and serve within that enclave. Because when that happens, it is difficult for you to to be killing each other because you are there and you are all serving the interests of the state. The Kusasis are in the army there, the Mamprusis are in the army there, and what is the ultimate agenda? To make sure that we stop what? The fighting, the infighting. That is the only way we can solve the problem, because you see, it's about thinking outside the box. So if President Mahama, His Excellency, mentioned whilst he was in opposition that normally when they are in government, there's relative peace over there, it could be an assumption. It could be an assumption that when we are there, it's relatively what? Stabilized. It happens everywhere in other countries. Normally, even in America, everybody knows that when the Republicans are in power, because they are very conservative, so no foreigner is safe. But when the Democrats are in power, the assumption is that they are liberal. So all of us can, find our way out. So It is the same scenario in Ghana. That maybe when NDC is in power, everybody's brain is a little bit what? Stabilized. Everybody feels that we are in a more stabilized environment.
Richard, we live to see, and we'll see what kind or what effect these measures have. And I'm happy that you say ultimately it's about compromise, it's about peace, and anybody that stands in the way of this national peace
is an enemy
of the state. Time check, it is some 9 minutes to the top of the 10 a.m. I do want us to touch very quickly on our second issue, and then we can wrap up on the morning. But I gave an emphasis to the issue in Bawku. It's an ongoing conversation, and I know it's one that we're very keen on. But Wanda, very quickly, before I bid you farewell, is Honorable Ato Forcing. That's what the kids are saying on social media and beyond. We had that mid-year budget review last Friday, and it seems that there is a lot of promise on the horizon. Inflation is going down. We see the exchange rate still stabilized as promised. But really, when shall we see it trickling down really into our pockets?
Oh, even if you look at it from that angle, I think largely we've seen a lot of stability over the period. This whole business of managing inflation is a double-edged sword. Anytime you are managing inflation and you are also managing the exchange rate, what will happen is that those who used to price in dollars, for instance, will start complaining because you have, perhaps signed contracts in dollars, maybe worth, let's say $1 million.
Right.
And at the time the exchange rate was 15, so you know that you're going to make some 15 million Ghana cedis in that respect. Now, the contract hasn't changed, but the dollar has moved to 10 point something or 11. Immediately, you're only going to be making 11 million as against the 15 you were making before. So you're going to be hurting that side of the market as well. They may be in a minority, but they also have a voice. And they now have a voice. In the past, they didn't have a voice. They were enjoying it.
That's right.
That was good money for them. They were enjoying it. So they were in the quiet. They were happy that the dollar may be getting to where it's getting to. But those who were also struggling based on that dollar exchange rate to buy stuff, change money to buy, were also in pain at the time. So it's a double-edged sword. Right now, the people who are complaining are those who did their pricing in dollars or bought in dollars, and they have to...
they have to toe the line. The city is flexing its muscles.
Exactly. So that's why I said it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
So, in as much as in the past we used to complain about the rise of the dollar and the CD was struggling and all that, there was a certain group, howbeit the larger group, that were struggling. Right now, there's a minor group, as it were, the elite group, that are struggling. For instance, if you had $1 million in the bank some few months ago, and you in your mind know that it's 15 million Ghana cedis, today it's 11 million.
I believe in the cedi supremacy, so I don't have dollars, I have cedis.
So we will be on the other on different sides of the divide.
That's right.
Now, inflation some time ago in 2022 peaked at 54%. That means that if you bought something today, by the following year the price has doubled. Very simple. But today we're seeing some relative calmness on the coast. Ghana's inflation is now, it is all the way in 2024 to 23.8% when the NDC took over. Right now it's doing something in the range of 13.7.
That's right.
The World Bank has predicted that we're going to end the year at 11.69. The new review says that we may be doing single digits before that time. And so a lot of things are happening, and we cannot but be grateful to God for where we are now as a country. Otherwise, we would have had a huge crisis because, one, our debt to GDP was very high.
Indeed.
In fact, if you talk about the nominal figures, you will see that we're owing about 749 billion. And all of a sudden, it has shrunk to some 600 and, if I can recall the figure, it has shrunk to some 613 or so billion.
Also thanks to the strengthening of our currency.
Yes, thanks to the strengthening of the currency. Thanks also to the work of the gold board. Within this period, they have been able to, amass some good revenue that is reserved for the country in excess of about 11 billion US dollars. Now, when these signals are good, what happens is that everybody wants to invest in the economy because
that's right.
Then pricing is stable. Then you also have the situation where I'm not going to lose my money when I put it in. There's stability, price stability, and you have people who, even locals who want to go into industry, investing their money as quickly as possible. Because if I was importing equipment for this office and it was $100 yesterday and today the same $100, and at that time I needed 1,500 to get them. Now I only need 1,000 to get them. That's bingo. I'll be excited about that.
Indeed.
Now, what is happening, which I think the government must also look at, is that we need to start going to exciting productivity. That's the only way to sustain this whole business of, price, stability or whatever you want to call it. We need to create jobs now. We need to go into industry. We need companies to come into this and start employing young men so that the CD can show up.
And that's something we would love to explore, at a later date. We don't have too much time left for the morning, but we can schedule that for a part two. A lot to discuss. We're still talking about 24-hour economy and so on and so forth. But Richard, I only have one question for you. It's a yes or no answer, and then we wrap up on the show. Is Honorable Ato forcing, yes or no?
Well, it's a yes, but yes with explanation.
Okay, we do the explanation when we have part two.
Give me just a minute to
if you can do it in 30 seconds, I'll be grateful. But we don't have too much time.
The issue is that we are practicing a liberal economy, okay?
Indeed.
And as a country that is import-driven economy, you can have inflation reduced into single digit 9%, but you are not the one doing the importation for the people. On book, it looks like inflation has been stabilized. But Ghana too, we have business people who have their own vested interest. So inflation can be 9%, but they are not that empathetic towards the citizens. So for him or her, it's all about money. That's why sometimes you need to control the economy and control prices. Instead of just saying it's a liberal economy, that one, we have a question to answer in the ages to come. Absolutely,
Richard. Very grateful always for your thoughts and perspectives. Richard Suma is a lead member, Movement for Change. We're also joined this morning by Wanda Madilo. He's part of the NDC's National Comms team. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. And we'll talk some more about the pertinent issues. Some 2 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 a.m. And if it is your birthday today, we're wishing you a very, very happy birthday. We'll roll up the birthday messages and we'll get into them right now.
Happy birthday to